whole time watching the movie, Sam. There's that point, because for, I'd say, like, 3/4 of the movie, Sonic doesn't have his shoes. He has, like, fucked up, gross running shoes.
Yeah, busted up shoes.
When they finally take it off at the end, I was like, are we going to see Sonic's feet? Like, could you imagine how fucking crazy this movie would be? It would be, like, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Mickey Mouse hands. That's what it would be like. It would be like seeing Mickey Mouse's actual hands outside the gloves.
Or, like, how fetishized feet are and how fetishized the Sonic community already is.
Oh, gross.
Teasing his feet.
Yeah.
It's
you're
like,
right. You're
come
right.
on,
they
dude.
Can't do that.
There's people getting boners in the audience already, and it's like, none of you should be here. There are mostly young children in this audience.
Absolutely, Oprah.
But yeah, so my ultimate hope for the Sonic movie is that it springboards what the director wanted to do, which was Sonic existing in his original world.
Yeah.
So hopefully they get a big ass budget next time, and they can do a crazy cool CGI movie.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I also hope that it sort of like shows anybody who wants to make a movie based on a video game kind of how it's done.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. Actually, that's an interesting question I want to talk about on the podcast. We'll talk about a little bit afterwards or before off mic. But like, so we haven't been doing this for a long time. We've only been doing this for about like 8 or 9 months, I think. Like, all said and told. Mm-hmm. And a lot of our earlier content, quote unquote, is stuff that we've, you know, we're not like not proud of it. Like I'm happy with how anything that's on the channel is I'm happy with. Yeah. But do you think that there's a lot of people who are like, oh, these two seem kind of fun, who like watch like the first episode of the podcast, like comedy porn, when like maybe we didn't quite have our footing yet, and maybe listen to 2 or 3 episodes and are like, oh well, this
actually not that funny.
Yeah
Totally. I think for sure that happens to me too, though, because like, you know, I'm trying to like promote our podcast a little bit more and like get the word out there and stuff like that, and you know, there's a lot of like, you listen to my podcast. You listen to my podcast.
Can we do this whole podcast in like Midwestern white women voices for the rest of the podcast?
Sure. So, oh well, you know, when people listen to my podcast,
So I posted on r/podcast, and they said I wasn't a good podcast.
They said they couldn't take my voice anymore. They couldn't handle my voice for some reason.
Can't imagine why.
Yeah, well, I was just making tacos for my kid.
Tacos for the podcast.
I was making tacos for my kid, and I just wanted to make a podcast about sharing taco recipes.
So you were saying about sharing your podcast, though.
So a lot of podcasts will be like, I'll listen to yours if you'll listen to mine, and then like that's how you get followers. Mm-hmm. But some of those podcasts, you know, like they're just starting out. Yeah. And they don't have a lot of episodes, so like one of the ones that are available is like the first one, and I'll listen to it, and it like sounds like it was recorded in a hallway, and like you know, like maybe it's not like a free form conversationalist podcast like this one, and it requires a little bit of structure, and the structure's not there,
right?
Or you know, it's a little I don't know what to call it. One day I will come up with like a catchy term for the phenomenon of like what happens to you when you get put behind a microphone and you suddenly realize that you're broadcasting yourself and opening yourself up to other people. Excuse me.
Mic fright.
I don't even want to call it that, because it's not like you're scared. You act up and you say shit that you don't normally say, and you act ways that you don't normally act. And I'm not saying like I'm oblivious to it, because I certainly hear it sometimes in myself, especially in our earlier episodes when we were first starting out. So I by no means like judge those podcasts, but usually when I listen to them and they have a case of like, you know, like the facade that they put over themselves when they get put in front of a microphone, I just think, you know, I'll come back to this later.
Right.
You know, like I'll revisit this.
We'll see how you're doing.
At episode like 20.
In a bit more time in the oven. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not bad. I just think you need to bake a little bit more. You just need to do this a little bit more.
So if you're at home right now and you've been listening to our podcast since episode 1, you think like, you know, these guys are pretty good. When you tell us about other people, tell them to start at here. Tell them to pick up the newest episode.
And get real attached to us and then go back, so that when you do go back, you don't mind the difference. It's
called reverse progression.
Yeah.
all the podcasts I listened to, I did exactly that.
That's literally the word for it, is regression.
Regression, yeah. Because you get to listen to where we are, and then you get to listen to where we were, and hopefully that might be a better frame of reference.
Yeah.
As opposed to like slogging through the first 10 episodes of our podcast. Although some of those early episodes I'm quite fond of.
Some of them are great. Like the actual like talking is great. It's just like I don't know. Like I hear our old mics and I hear the setup that we hadn't quite perfected yet. You know, we didn't perfect the blanket wall that we have here right now.
The first couple of episodes we recorded, we didn't even have like a bottom part of the wall.
Yeah, exactly. So I just hear those things and I'm like, oh damn. We still have a long ways to go, but we've come a bit of a ways already.
I mean, yeah, we have better microphones now. That's a start. When it comes to an audio-based medium, you want your audio to be the best, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that podcasts, especially like there's a sea of podcasts out there, right?
It's really inundated.
And there's tons of podcasts just like this one, where it's like, you know, you and I are dating and we've been dating for a long time, and that's sort of the basis of our relationship when it comes to our online relationship, I mean.
Yeah.
So that's the dynamic you're getting into when you click on our stuff. But, you know, there's tons of podcasts like that.
I am proud of like how far we've come in such a short span of time.
Absolutely.
We just need to grow.
Yeah,
I did the like Natasha Rothwell from Insecure like hand motion.
Growth.
You know
hear
what that
that?
is? Growth.
Growth.
Watch Insecure.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
That's lesson number one today is watch Insecure.
If you saw like Natasha Rothwell as the sister in Sonic the Hedgehog and like thought she was hilarious, which like everybody did because the theater that we saw it in was like laughing at her the whole time.
She was really
so
funny.
Watch Insecure because she's on that show even more and she's really, really great.
Yeah.
And it's just more of that. So I love it.
I mean, I know a lot of people who love Insecure. Where do you watch it? Like, where can you find it?
It's on Crave.
Is it?
It's an HBO show.
Okay.
So if you have anything to do with HBO, you can watch Insecure. It's also on Crave. Yeah.
What is Insecure though? Like, what is it?
It's like black girls.
Okay.
Like the HBO show Girls.
Right.
Except not as shitty. Like the main character isn't insufferable and bad, but it's about 4 late 20-somethings, early 30-somethings, like navigating life and relationships and careers together as friends.
No, that sounds good.
Yeah, it mainly focuses on Issa Rae's character, but yeah, it's her and her friends and their lives.
That's interesting.
It's really, really fun.
But you're talking about growth just now, and something I think is interesting is like, especially like hear it early on in a lot of our earlier Let's Plays, where it's like our approach to Let's Plays, like we really never wanted to be like, you know, the early 2000s, like, hey, welcome back, gamers. You know, like we're playing episode 455 of Minecraft. Like, you know, like,
is that what Let's Plays were like in the early 2000s?
Yeah, because back in the like, you know, back when like PewDiePie was starting out and like all the like Markiplier and all these other guys, like their whole shtick was like high octane, very very much characters. Like they play characters that are react to everything. They have these big over the top reactions. All of them have like intro songs and shit. Like it was a certain way, you know. But my point where I was going with that is that like I could see why they do that, because putting yourself out there is hard, especially when you're putting yourself out there in an honest way, trying to just, you know, say it with your chest and be online, right? So I can definitely hear it early on in our Let's Plays, like especially myself, like just trying to get energy up and like keep energy up can be difficult, and I can see why they would lean on something like a high octane overreacting character.
God, it is so hard to keep your energy up for these things. Like I started drinking coffee because of this channel.
Yeah,
I didn't drink coffee before this channel, and I don't say that like, oh, I started drinking. I had to start drinking coffee.
Showspot is like, such a drain.
You know, like it really made me respect like on-air personalities and the work that it is just to show up and talk.
You really have to be on,
aside from literally everything else that comes with the job, which is so much more. But like talk show hosts and like, you know, red carpet journalists, like I even like respect Ben Mulroney a little bit more, because it's like, how are you like this all the time? How are you like this? Even though I think he's like the poster child for like corniness. Yeah
I'm getting a phone call.
Okay,
so we're gonna pause
it's
real
probably
quick.
Your mechanic, so
we'll be right back, everybody. Oh, there it goes. Thank you for waiting, folks. We're back. And good news, Sam, my car is ready.
Oh, well, good.
So that's all we have for today's podcast. So I was reading something when I was in the other room as well, Sam. Urgent breaking news.
Okay.
U.S. Urban Outfitters has sent an email notifying some customers that they're oversold on Animal Crossing New Horizon bundles and that some orders are getting canceled.
Oh, shit.
Urban Outfitters sells game consoles? What?
Yeah.
Maybe I've never been to an Urban Outfitters. I thought they sold clothes.
They do. They also have like a home decor, and then they also sell like top of the like most popular electronics. I think they sell like Beats and like.
Okay.
They're kind of like Indigo. You know how like Indigo sells books, but they also have pillows and Kindles.
Yeah,
and,
but I'm gonna say Indigo is more. Indigo is
Alexas and stuff like that. Yeah,
it's like the fanciest knickknacks you can find.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
In terms of just like shit to put around your house.
A whole apartment with shit from Indigo.
100%.
Like straight up.
100%.
And you know what? Good for her.
Right,
Yeah.
Good for that version of Sam who owns an apartment, who's decorating said apartment with Indigo stuff.
I meant the her as like Indigo. Like Indigo is her. Is
okay.
She. Yeah.
I suppose it is like. I mean, at the same time, though, it's like I like a lot of stuff from Indigo, but
it's
then
not,
again,
it's not. No, babe, it's not gender. It's not gender specific. It's like, you know how Jonathan Van Ness calls everything like she and her.
Right,
it's
right.
like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's an interesting distinction too, right? Because there are things like I refer to my car as a she.
Yeah.
And it's not like
my car is a she, but my old car was a he.
Magoo is a he.
Magoo was a boy. Sissy's a girl.
A boy. Oh, I named her Sissy.
Yeah.
That's right. That's cute.
Yeah.
But so not to get off track though, but it's like, is it not super fucking embarrassing that a store like Urban Outfitters, who like clearly has been taking pre-orders for this thing,
yeah, you messed up,
now has to call like 100 people and be like, yeah, sorry, we don't have your thing.
We actually don't have it.
Here's a $10 voucher.
What game was that? And Kid Fury talked about it on the read. God, it was like a super popular game that was coming out, and then like I think it was PlayStation oversold digital downloads, which I don't understand.
You can't really oversell digital downloads.
Or maybe it was like, you know what? I think it was GameStop. I think because people fucking hate GameStop in the States, and that sounds like something they would do when they already are hated by a bunch of people. Yeah, it was it was Kingdom Hearts.
Really?
Because Kingdom Hearts had the special edition PS4, right?
Oh, that's right.
That bundle.
Yeah.
And a really popular Twitch streamer bought the bundle, but GameStop oversold their stock.
Shit.
So she didn't get it. But she's like a really popular streamer, and her bread and butter is like playing these things when they come out immediately and doing unboxings and stuff like that. So they really, really fucked her over when they oversold the Kingdom Hearts package, and I felt bad.
You know, it's funny you say that because it's interesting that I work at a video game retailer and now we are drowning in copies of Kingdom Hearts.
Oh.
Because the game didn't sell well. They sent us like 200 fucking copies.
That's what breaks my heart. Ever since I started paying attention to like video games and like how video games are made and how video games are bought and sold and how people respond to them, is that like you can really have like a highly anticipated game that people have been waiting for more than a decade to play, and they're so excited for it, and then if it's not exactly like how they remember it when they were kids, they turn around on you and shut it the fuck down.
And they fuck it up. Well, here's the thing.
And then you never see that series again.
I mean, okay.
Breaks my heart.
Kingdom Hearts, okay. This is a very complicated issue. This might earn us some ire. The thing with Kingdom Hearts,
you some ire. I'm staying out of it.
Yeah,
you hear that? You hear that, people? Don't come for me. I don't know.
Sam has said nothing.
I am simply baby. Do not come for me.
I have no power.
I don't know anything. I'm very small and I have no money.
But the thing with Kingdom Hearts that bothers me is that like Kingdom Hearts has and always been and always has been and always will be was a game designed for young children. It's you play as a Final Fantasy type character with Disney characters and you fight shadow monsters based on Disney characters. You know what I mean? So it's like the writing has always been goofy. Sora is not the usual like Final Fantasy protagonist. He's like a fun-loving, cheery, likable character. He's meant to appeal to younger people, and a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans, because the time between 2 and 3 is like 12 years. So by the time people were playing 2, they could have been 12. And by the time the next one comes out, you're 24. So like when you pick up the third game,
it's like fossilized in your brain.
And it's exactly how it was. You can't turn around and be like, "Oh, it's not how I remember," because it is how you remember. You remembered incorrectly. That's what bothers me about some Kingdom Hearts. A lot of the thing with Kingdom Hearts' story is fucking nonsense. Like it doesn't have a story. People like to pretend it has a story. There's no fucking story to Kingdom Hearts.
See, this is where the ire comes in.
Yeah.
I know nothing about Kingdom Hearts. I literally don't. I didn't learn about Kingdom Hearts until like grade 9 when I met my best friend Emily, and like they're the ones who told me about it, and I still don't know what the fuck, sorry, Auntie Sandra, is about. So, like, I have to take it with a grain of salt when you say things like it doesn't have a story, because how does it not have a story? Every video game has a story.
Kingdom Hearts is the most convoluted video game of all time.
It's complicated, but it has a story.
Pause. It's not complicated. It's convoluted. It's poorly written.
Okay, so it's it's a little messy, but there's a story. It's not like it's completely baseless.
Not even really, though. Like, they introduce, like, random plot elements that don't ever make sense.
But it is trying to tell a story, at least, is what I'm trying to get across
Okay,
here.
yeah.
You know? Like, it's not just, like, they're just taking Disney IPs and being like, you know, like, just go play with Hercules, kids. You know, like, there is a story.
The first game was a lot like
Whether
that.
or not you think it's good or bad is always up for debate, but there is a story present in the game.
Well, here's the problem. In the first
These
game,
are facts.
they thought it was going to be standalone. Okay. They didn't think it was going to sell well. They're like, it's kind of a weird mishmash, and maybe we'll make some money back on it. But then it was uber popular. So like, we got to do a second one.
Okay.
So most of the plot in the second one retcons the first one.
Okay.
And then from there on end, it's just fucking nonsense.
Okay.
Like, there's a difference between something being super complicated and something just like not even trying. Mm-hmm. And then people thought, because Kingdom Hearts 3 was said to be the last game.
Yeah.
And it isn't going to be the last game.
Okay.
They like teased more story.
Okay.
But the problem with that is like, what story? Like, what's there to get excited about?
Yeah.
Like, there's like, do any of you out there understand what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Because I don't.
Yeah.
And most of the characters don't. There's a point because the thing with Kingdom Hearts 3 that bothered a lot of people is that it became self-aware.
Yeah.
It started like acknowledging the fact that the story was bullshit. So
they called themselves out,
which is like sometimes could work out.
Yeah.
But when you have people who like, here's my original point where I was going. When you play a game like Kingdom Hearts, which has like sweeping music and lovely visuals and some of your favorite, most nostalgic characters of all time, when you're a 12-year-old, you place a lot of importance on it.
Yeah.
You think the story is a lot deeper and more mature than it's actually written.
Okay.
Truth is that it isn't.
Okay.
So when people picked up Kingdom Hearts 3 and Sora's making goofy-ass jokes and Donald and Goofy are Donald and Goofy from Mickey Mouse and like relatively unchanged, it's a tonal shock. Because when you were a kid, you're like, oh, I remember there being this like crazy story with huge stakes and all this stuff. When in reality, it's always been this way. So like nostalgia blinds people. I guess that's my point when it comes to Kingdom Hearts 3.
Because like, I feel like it can go two ways. I feel like when you have a large group of people who are so attached to a piece of art like that, sometimes you also get the argument where it's like you are so, like, your nostalgia is so strong for this thing that you don't see how ridiculous it is, or you like can't get on board with it because, anybody from outside of that thing and hasn't experienced it from the time they were a kid can't get on board with it because like they just don't you had to be there as a kid to really love it. So like everybody who loved, like, let's say for example that like Kingdom Hearts did do super well, but like it didn't attract a lot of new players because everybody who loved it as a kid can get on board with it because they've been here the whole time, and then no one new can really get on board with it because they just don't have that childhood nostalgia factor to it.
There's 9 fucking games you have to play to understand what's going on.
Exactly.
And then 9 games you have to play and then not have any understanding of what's going on. Because the games don't do a good job of telling you what's going on.
That's like, you know, I've tried to start watching some of these animes that people love and have loved since they were kids, like Inuyasha and Naruto and Dragon Ball Z.
Love me some Inuyasha.
And like I tried with Inuyasha. I watched the first episode and I was like, I stopped, I put down the controller, and I was like, what the fuck was that? That wasn't good, and it wasn't bad. It was just sort of like there, you know? And like, I don't hate it. Oh my god, Death Note? I was like, how did everybody watch Death Note when or is it L?
It's Light Yagami is the main character's name.
Light is such an insufferable, like, incel-esque, like, prick, douchebag, terrible person who was like, thank God I found this notebook because nobody else could handle this notebook responsibly because I am so much smarter than everybody else. And it's like, how the fuck did you watch this? And it's like, oh, you have to be a kid and not fully like know everything about straight men's bullshit.
Well, Death
to
Note
get
is
on
also
board
like
with it, and then it's attached to your childhood, so you love it now, and that's fair.
I guess so.
But like, holy hell, like I do want to go back to Death Note now that like I know what to expect. You know, maybe you know I'll like the rest of it.
Yeah.
But like, oh my god, how did I hear about this anime for my entire life and nobody told me that the protagonist is an insufferable little weasel?
Right.
Like,
well,
what?
see, so like, I agree with what you're saying. The first thing I'm going to say is that where they fucked up with Kingdom Hearts 3 is that they should have understood that their 12-year-old base from 12 years ago is now
Or
24,
20,
and they should have updated it.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
should have given it a super dramatic story
Okay.
and an awesome conclusion, because people would have actually liked that.
Okay.
But they didn't. The thing with Light Yagami is that like Light Yagami is supposed to be detestable because he's like a crazy narcissist and he's insanely smart. So,
But I grew up seeing like a lot of like art, like for example, like fan art that sort of like romanticizes him a lot, and I just thought that maybe he was like a hot anime, like a hot anime boy that people fell in love with and like liked for some reason that I didn't know about because I had never seen the show before, and then I watched it and he's the worst.
A lot of people idolize Light Yagami because projection.
Yeah, and
to be honest.
worries me. That worries me, you know? Like, I watched that I finished the episode, and I thought about all of the deviant art that I saw back in the day about it, and I was like, do I need to worry about, like, every single one of my friends?
No. Well, the thing is like, I don't know, man. Like, there's something to be said, like, there was, have you heard of Hell of a Boss, or perhaps Has Been Hotel? These two things ring a bell?
No. Has Been Hotel sounds like Habba Hotel.
Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss are two independently animated pilots that a team of animators have been working on, and they got a bunch of like serious good voice talent to make it, and they're both on YouTube, made by a creator named Vivzy Pop.
Okay.
That's a whole thing, a whole another can of worms. They're both really great, and they're very fun and well animated. They both take place in hell.
Okay.
Like hell.
Yeah.
So
like Ninth Circle.
there's lots of characters who are detestable because you're in hell.
And that's where bad people go.
A lot of people on the internet were getting up and heavy, hot and heavy about characters saying rude things about like this and that and being offensive and quote unquote. Well, it's like not every character is offensive, but you're in hell.
Yeah.
Like you're what do you think?
You're the worst kind of person.
Just the worst kind of worst, right? So I think there's something to be said about letting bad characters be bad. I understand where you're coming from. We're like, from your perspective going into Death Note, like if I could say, you probably thought Light Yagami was going to be a really endearing character. You thought he was going to be someone you want to root for.
Just like a schoolboy who found this notebook. I thought that maybe I would watch his like, you know, his ethics be tested.
Yeah.
His notebook.
But see the difference. This is not going to make the case any better for you specifically, but Light Yagami is a lot like Macbeth. He's this god complex, really narcissistic, believes he can do no wrong type character, and you're not necessarily rooting for him, but you are interested in seeing what happens, because Death Note gets really intricate with its narratives, and it gets really like the amount of times he like almost gets caught or like escapes narrowly or like it uses his crazy foresight and planning is really interesting to watch. But he is a detestable character.
Okay. See, like I did not know that. You know,
which is totally fair.
People made it sound like they like really wanted.
A
him
lot
to
of people idolize Light Yagami, and I think that's incorrect. I don't think that's what you're supposed to do.
But it's like, you know how like sometimes I'm trying to think of like examples per se, but like, you know how sometimes you grow up and you realize that a protagonist that you had been rooting for the whole time was actually a bad person and you kind of missed the point. I guess like the Joker is like that.
Yeah, like Rick Sanchez or something.
Yeah. Yes, and you grow up and you have experiences and you learn things about people and you realize that these protagonists that you were made to cheer for are actually kind of bad people.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody got that message with Light.
Well, there was also
I just feel like nobody really got that message, and I felt like I sat there in my sunroom by myself thinking like, am I the only one who like didn't take this like red pill here? Like,
right.
Like, am I the only one who didn't like drink this Kool-Aid? Because I feel like I'm the only one who didn't drink the Kool-Aid on Light. I feel like everybody likes Light, but it's glaringly obvious.
Right.
Like it's so obvious. He says it in the first episode. Thank God that I found this book because I don't think anybody else is smart enough to handle this
Yeah.
because I'm the smartest person.
Yeah.
That's like not verbatim, but it's
it's
almost verbatim what he says.
Pretty much what he says, yeah.
It's like, how can you watch that and get on board with this character? This is the first episode. How can you watch that and
because
get on board with this person?
He's detestable, but he's not poorly written.
And like want to see more to the point where this anime is like an institution.
Well, a lot of people, I mean,
anime.
In my opinion, like look at characters like Joffrey or like Ramsay Snow or something, right? From Game of Thrones. Like these characters are bad, real bad dudes who people hate.
I enjoyed watching Joffrey choke to death.
Yeah, but you also enjoyed, on some level, in my opinion anyway, I enjoyed watching Joffrey be a fucking cocksucker. Because
I didn't.
Well, I mean, maybe that's a difference. Maybe you need to take in more media where the protagonist is, morally sound. Like it sounds like you don't like protagonists that are, kind of like, morally gray or even like
Joffrey's not morally
heavily
gray,
flawed.
Joffrey's not morally gray at all. He's a bad person.
Well, I mean, but at the same time, like it was going to or talking about Hasman Hotel and earlier, like bad characters need to be bad.
Yeah.
And just because they're bad doesn't mean they're poorly written or anything, right?
No, like it has nothing to do with them being poorly written.
I guess I'm just struggling to see where you're coming from.
It just kind of goes back to the whole like the media that we consume affects, whether consciously or not, who we are out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So when people try and like toe the line with characters like Joffrey or like Light, who are like so bad, but like they're kind of like, oh well, like they either say like, oh well, that was the time period that he was in, like with Joffrey, or like you're not supposed to like him, like with Light, and it's like, yeah, but people, or with the Joker is really bad for this, where it's like you're not supposed to want to root for the Joker, and it's like, yeah, but you're like, there are people who really don't get that,
right? And
in this day and age, like people feel more emboldened than ever to like act on their shitty behaviors that we like somehow managed to keep tamped down before this like era that we're in right now. So like I just feel like we need to be really careful with bad guys and the way that we write bad guys, because people just they absorb more than they ever give themselves credit for.
Okay.
So you just gotta be careful. That's all I think. And
sure.
Death Note is a show that I know a lot of my friends watch. Not that I think that my friends are bad people. That's not what I'm saying. They turned out pretty good in my eyes. No one's perfect, but like I think that I have a good circle of friends. But I think about my friends who watched the show when they were kids and they were impressionable, and I can't believe that was what they were watching before they knew better. It just shocked me a little bit.
I think that makes sense. I think what you're saying,
like, it'll wear off and I'll go back and I'll probably keep watching it because I did enjoy it. I thought, I love Yuk. I think he's like such a cool villain. Mm-hmm. I thought you didn't say the R.
No, it's pronounced Ryuk.
You said Yuk. You told me Yuk one time.
Okay, maybe I don't know. I don't remember saying that.
Okay. Yuk. Or maybe I just like I said it really, really, because I'm terrible with Japanese names. Like I'll say it straight up. Like I'm terrible with Japanese names and words.
Right.
Maybe I said like Ryuk, and you told me it was like Yuk, but I heard Yuk without the R, which is fair.
It's like Pusha T's ad lib.
Yeah.
It goes Yuck.
Yuck. Regardless, I thought that he was really cool, and I would like to see more of him.
No,
and,
the Shinigami stuff in Death Note is really interesting.
And the premise is really cool. A boy finds a book, and if you write a person's name in the book, and the date, and the time, and the how, then they'll die immediately. And like, what is that? What do you do with that power?
Totally.
So.
Well, I guess you know what it says. Like, it's interesting to say. Like,
interesting enough. We got to be careful, man.
So like, and I agree with what you're saying, but at the same time, like, I do think that like, how can I say this? Like, the impressionable people who turn out to be like violent or detestable or like act out on these tendencies after feeling emboldened by this, that, and the other thing. Like, I feel like that's a very, very, very vocal minority, and I feel like people get hurt, obviously, and I think that's where you're coming from, and I think that being careful makes sense. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like, all of your friends watch this show, and I don't think they're weird for liking it, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I don't so much worry about my friends right now. I worried about my friends as children.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Like in that moment I thought about my friends being children who watched this show, and thinking like, oh, like their young impressionable minds like saw this. What happened?
Actually, you know what? At the same time, Sam, you're not even really too off base, because when Death Note was still coming out and making new episodes, there was a bunch of Japanese kids who got in trouble and expelled from schools for making their own Death Notes and like writing kids' names in it, and like obviously nothing happened, but like that's still like fucked up when you think about it. You know? So like you're not entirely wrong or even wrong at all. It's just I think it's a complicated issue. It's a very broad issue, and it's hard to be like, well, because if Light Yagami was an upstanding, normal schoolboy who was like, you know, just a normal guy and a good person, any logical person, when Ryuk was like, hey, you want this book? You can write people's names in it and they'll die, would be like, no thanks. I'm all right, Mr. Demon Man.
And then you don't have a show.
And, you know, and then you go.
It's just the narcissist part of me, right? Like, it's just, or sorry, the narcissist part to me, not the narcissist part of me.
You want to
the narcissist part to me,
a little bit?
how Light thinks that he's like the smartest person, and I'm like, he's in what, the Japanese equivalent of like grade 9 or 10, like he's in high school,
something like that,
and he already thinks like, I'm so smart, everyone around me is stupid. He like doesn't have any friends, not because he's a loser and like he's having a hard time like connecting with kids his own age, but because he genuinely thinks that he's too good for kids his own age, and that is so scary.
Yeah, it's fucked up
to think that in high school already. Like that is so scary.
No, yeah, that's some school shooter shit. Like it's fucked up.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's exactly what I'm thinking, right? It's like now this person has access to death and like
Oh, but that's, and see, but a lot of people, it's like the same people who watch like scary movies or true crime documentaries. It's like the scariness of it is what keeps you going. But like when I was reading Death Note, the whole time I was like, yeah, I don't identify with Light at all. If anything, I'm rooting for the police in this scenario. But I am excited to see where it goes. I want to see how fucking insane this gets. I want to see how out of hand this gets. You know, and I guess that's the pull. It's more entertainment value for me. Like, because at the same time, like, and again, this is clearly a personal opinion, but like when it comes to detestable characters and characters who are negative, who affect their world negatively, I think as long as you understand that, you can consume the media, in my opinion.
Yes, but kids were watching it at the time, and they don't understand that. So that is, again, like that's, I say again, that is where I got concerned.
Oh, okay.
That is where I was like, holy shit, I can watch this, because I was like 24, 25 when I watched the first episode. Totally fine. I can, you know, and I had the know-how to be like, okay, Light, not a good guy. Like not a good person to begin with, not good that he now has the Death Note.
Right.
But like my friends, when they were watching this at like 11:30 p.m. on YTV, when their parents thought that they were in bed, a little concerned.
Right,
you know?
right.
You know, not too concerned, because like my friends are my friends, and you know they're not homicidal maniacs.
Yeah, well, it turned out to be okay.
Yeah, it turned out okay. But I just think, you know, if my friends weren't such good people, then they could easily have been turned differently. In part because of the show, not 100%, because I do.
Well,
at the end of the day, I do believe that like that sort of, you know, if you're gonna become a narcissistic homicidal maniac, then like that was sort of in you the whole time, and you can't just blame a piece of media altogether.
Well, yeah.
But it helps.
Yeah.
Media helps because it emboldens you and it makes you feel like you're not alone.
Right.
So you feel more okay with carrying out those actions, and then you get bad stuff.
I guess so.
So
it's an interesting conversation, right? Because in my opinion, like you just said, there's a question where, you know, a lot of people like, okay, every year this comes up where video games cause violence.
Yeah.
Video games cause, the reason we're getting so many school shooters is Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
It's like,
and Call of Duty. They blame Call of Duty too.
Video games, as well as TV shows and movies and all art, have something called an age rating.
Yeah.
The ESRB for video games rates whether or not there should be an age rating on this game.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that parents who buy their kids Grand Theft Auto and then turn around when their kid is saying fuck all the time and talking about, like, they don't understand what they're talking about, but talking about like hitting like prostitutes or women or something.
Yeah.
It's like, you did this to yourself.
Realistically speaking, like if everybody followed the game ratings to a T, no high schooler would ever touch Grand Theft Auto.
No.
Because you're not 18 when you're in high school.
No, okay, so in my opinion,
I mean, like at the very end you are, but like the very end. So
most 18 or most M-rated video games, and I say M-rated, when I say M-rated, I'm referring to like R-rated movies and 18A shows. Like I'm trying to be all encompassing when I say this. I personally think it's a maturity thing. You know, if you believe your kid is mature enough to handle
Yeah.
something like extreme violence
Yeah.
and understand
Yeah.
that it's fictional media
Yep.
and that it's not something to be recreated,
Yeah.
then they can consume it.
Yeah.
But if your kid is like 9, don't buy them Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Like, do us all a fucking favor
Yeah.
and don't buy Grand Theft Auto.
That's like so like, and you know, this freedom is what makes being a human so beautiful, but it's also a little where things get dicey. But you know, you as a parent have the right to think that maybe your 9-year-old is mature enough. I certainly was thought of as mature when I was 9 years old for my age, always have been. So, you know, granted, my parents were letting me see R-rated movies because just like sex and, blood and gore.
Virtue of not wanting
Things that
to
you don't want a
ruin
9-year-old to see.
ruin your innocence at 9 years old.
But I could totally see, you know, maybe someone who's a little bit more lax than my parents were when I was a kid, but have a kid who is as mature as I was when I was 9, thinking, you know, like, I'll go with them, but like, sure, they can play Grand Theft Auto with me. Sure, they can see, you know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
If
Sure,
you're there to explain and tell your kid why things are a certain way, you know, like, that's different. That's being a good parent.
And it's hard because, like, you know, so I think some people would disagree. I think some people would think that there is a hard age, like there's sort of like a nebulous like bracket of time in which kids should be kids and should only watch kid things, and then there's a vague bracket of time where you can kind of go like, okay, you can have a little bit of gore, you can have a little bit of boobies, you can have a little bit, you know, but like, we're gonna talk about it. And that sort of like bracket is different for every person,
sure, yeah,
especially when it comes to like parenting and deciding for another human entity, like when that is. So it's just kind of hard to say. And like, I agree with you. I agree that, like, for the most part, you should respect ratings, and you should.
It's why they're there.
You know, like, and if you're gonna break those rules, then you need to be with your kid and know that they're consuming these things, these shows, these games, these movies, whatever.
Right.
You need to know so that even if they're consuming it without you, at some point you can come around and be like, hey, so like, about that movie that you saw the other week, like, how was it? What did you see? What did you think about it? I think you need to be on them, but some people do not think that way.
No, yeah.
And it's, you know, it's a beautiful thing because, like, you know, freedom of thought and speech and different approaches can be good or bad. They have their pros and cons. And
there's no one right way to do this.
Yeah, from my perspective, it's also not so good. So
yeah. So anyway, I guess, like, the reason why I brought that up is because I want to be really careful in these conversations, because at the end of the day, even though it doesn't help, I still don't think the blame lays with the media.
No.
And a lot of people blame the media.
Yeah, you're right.
No, the reason why your kid shot up a fucking school is because he's fucked up. And, like, has been fucked up forever. And, like, yeah, maybe playing Gears of War didn't help. But you seriously, look at the millions of people who enjoy this media who don't shoot people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess
the numbers are far larger.
I guess that was
larger.
Like, I don't disagree with what you're saying at all, but I guess that was like the only bone I picked, and I wanted just to be really clear about that.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree overall that, like, you can't blame media. People are gonna make what they're gonna make.
Well, you know what I mean?
It's up to you to not shoot people.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the one with the trigger, so maybe, like, don't shoot people.
Totally right.
You know, maybe don't abuse your romantic partners or other people that you love and who love you back.
Exactly.
You know, maybe don't do those things.
Yeah, and maybe
don't start a cult and murder Roman Polanski's pregnant wife.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Don't do that.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? If that didn't happen.
Yeah. Fuck Roman Polanski though.
For real though. Yeah, that guy's a bastard.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
But you know, we even talked about, like, when the Joker was coming out, and like you mentioned earlier, like, this character is very contentious, and it's caused a lot of online spark, and a lot of people were like, oh, but this Joker movie is gonna, you know, this, that, and the other thing. But I saw a lot of these people, like, in one breath go, video games don't cause violence, and then in another breath go, like, the Joker movie is going to cause violence. And it's like, do you not see, like, this is having your cake and eating it.
Right.
Like, you can't have both these cakes.
Right.
It's the same cake.
I think we have to consider there's a lot of outside forces that made people wary of the Joker.
I totally agree.
Also think about, you know, like, it hasn't been that long since that, like, Batman shooting in the movie theater happened. So I think, you know, like, people are sort of subconsciously, like, they have that story tucked away in their minds.
Absolutely.
So when they enter a movie theater that as something that's Batman related, you get a little,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I certainly every once in a while when I'm in a movie theater, not just Batman movies, but I'll like think about where I'm sitting.
100%.
And I'll think about
in
where
relation to the exit.
are.
Oh yeah.
And
Every time I see a movie, it doesn't matter which movie I see.
you know,
Yeah.
like, get a little scared because essentially, like, you know, I'm no hero, and I'm, you know, I think, okay, I'm in this movie theater, the exit's there, but we're essentially like fish in a barrel.
Sitting ducks, yeah.
But to
not to get
lean on
fucked
that
up.
too much. You know, like, to go back to like the Joker and like why people got upset about it. More recently than like the latest Grand Theft Auto game, people who want to hurt other people have, when you plumb their social media, they have like posts that idolize the Joker in some aspects,
especially with white domestic terrorism
So
and
that is just-
incel terrorism and stuff like that.
So that is just a lot fresher in people's minds.
I get that.
It's
I totally get that.
You just have to think about like the time period that we're in and how that affects like how people react to these things. So when another piece of media about the fucking Joker, and it's also like, we get it, white men, he's interesting because he's a psychological like case study in
This,
and of
that,
himself.
and the fucking whatever.
I fucking get it.
Yeah, right.
I know. I know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And like, congratulations, Joaquin Phoenix. You got an Oscar for
Yeah.
it. And like, it did super great and it was a good movie. And another Joker movie was like highly regarded and highly respected. Another
Go
Joker
off,
performance.
Seth.
Like, we get it. We fucking get it.
Shit.
These movies do well, and good storytellers and good filmmakers attach themselves onto them, and they always turn out super good, and like, we fucking get it.
Except Todd Phillips is one of those guys who was like, you can't be a comedian in 2020 thanks to SJWs.
Yeah, no, he's like,
fuck off, dude.
He's like he's a bit of a bonehead for that comment, but like, he made a good Joker movie.
He did make
you know?
yeah.
I didn't see it, but like, it won a bunch of Oscars, and like after the whole like initial like, oh, another Joker movie thing like died down, people were like, okay, it's actually a pretty good movie.
It is a perfectly fine movie.
But like, do you not see the amount of people who have done bad things, who have content on their social medias that idolize the Joker?
Right.
I'm not saying correlation equals causation, but like, it's happened enough that I'm kind of thinking about it.
That makes sense.
So I kind of wish that we would ease up on the Joker for a couple of years, because like, I'm trying to live, man.
Right, yeah.
Like, I'm trying just to get through every day.
I would very much-
holes where holes
yeah.
shouldn't be, and just like, please.
I'd like to go
I'm
see a
getting little
movie
scared.
and not have to have a tight butthole the whole time.
Yeah.
Thinking about whether or not we're gonna die. You
Yeah,
know,
it's like, I trust myself with Joker content, but I don't trust anybody else with
I don't-
Joker content.
I don't trust
these
you
days.
whites out there.
I don't trust it. I don't trust anybody. You know.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, I get stuck at a party in a corner with an asshole who mansplains the Joker to me. You know, like, that's the best case scenario, and that's still pretty insufferable.
Right.
It's downhill from there.
But at least you won't die.
So just
you know.
stop it.
No, I agree, Sam.
Just stop it.
I think you're making sense.
God, and like, Birds of Prey was really good, but we gotta ease up on Harley Quinn too. I'm getting tired. Harley Quinn is just R-rated Alice in Wonderland fucking phase, and I'm so tired of it.
What a comparison! I've never heard
so
that.
tired of
I've
it.
never heard that comparison before.
Oh my God, you know, like, damn, God damn.
Well, it's funny, right? We talked about this, I think, last podcast, where it's like Birds of Prey did great. Birds of Prey was reviewed well.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was good girl power. Like,
Yeah.
it was really good. And fuck all the men who are out there like, oh, Sonic the Hedgehog is a better movie than Harley Quinn. And it's like,
That is okay. We should probably wrap up after this, but that is my.
did you bite into an apple pie expecting like orange flan? Like, what is the matter with you?
That is my favorite, most recent fake ass media war.
Yeah.
Is the incels on YouTube.
Yeah.
Pushing the narrative that SJWs who loved Birds of Prey are trying to tank Sonic the Hedgehog. What the fuck? This has nothing to do with one another. Like, hang on, I want to find that tweet that I sent you that really made me laugh.
Okay.
And we'll do lessons and get the fuck out of here.
But like, yeah, like, I just we gotta let like Batman enemies just like take a breather for a second. I need something else. Or at least focus on a different. Bring back the Penguin, man.
Or just give me another
put Danny
fucking
DeVito back in
superhero.
a tuxedo and just make a movie out
Yeah.
of it. I'm done.
So I showed you this tweet where it's like, It was a YouTube thumbnail. Feminist furious at Sonic's success proves gamers right, and it's like a picture of Sonic. And the quote tweeted says, "I enjoyed the Sonic movie, but it was weird when he turned directly to the camera and said a woman's place in the home." Oh my god!
Like, I never said that.
No one who saw Birds of Prey was like, "This movie is so much better than Sonic the Hedgehog."
Yeah. Take your kids to see Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey instead of Sonic the Hedgehog, a kids movie made for children.
Featuring a blue anthropomorphic hedgehog, voiced by a comedian. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know.
Very nice comedian who is just very excited to play his little childhood favorite.
Good for him, Ben.
Animated.
Good for you, Ben.
Yeah.
Come on the podcast, Ben. Mr.
High
Schwartz.
Key. High key.
Yeah. We can get him if we kidnap him or something.
Yeah, he's said before that he like loves doing podcasts and stuff. So like, I mean, like, it's just we're just a little itty bitty podcast.
You want to come to our podcast for 60 people? They bet they'll like you a lot.
Just make sure you say hi to my mom on your way in.
That's true.
Yeah. Do you want to stay for dinner?
Yeah, really.
Tom's making breakfast for dinner.
You want a BLT, Mr. Schwartz? He does a really good job.
Do you want a BLT, Ben Schwartz? It's the signature sandwich for tonight. We call it a Ben lettuce and tomato.
Okay, we said in early lesson number 1 earlier in the podcast. Remember what it was?
No.
Okay.
We don't do that.
Lesson number 1 was to do whatever I said earlier in the podcast.
Lesson number 2 is just to give the Joker a break. I'm so tired. It's good, and everybody who touches it does a good job, but I'm tired and I need a rest.
I'm just tired of mentally broken white men falling into criminal life because of their mentally broken things. And like, listen, okay, let me be so perfectly clear. So that narrative isn't inherently flawed. It's tragic to see someone who is so sad and broken turn to a life of violence and crime.
Because life just didn't cut them any.
If you live in your mom's basement and you're unemployed and play Dota 2 for 1,000 hours a week and eat Cheetos and Mountain Dew, you're not the fucking Joker. You're a loser. And you need to get a fucking life.
Yes,
Like,
thank you.
That's the issue I take with people who like, listen, if you suffer with mental illness and you feel yourself really like getting to dark places, I can see why you're watching the Joker and be like, fuck, this is a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want this to happen to me.
I'm gonna maybe get some help.
Yeah. Not like fucking Joe Blow with a neck beard down to his crotch, like it connects to his fucking treasure trail, going up to women and being like, "Hey bitch, you wanna go on a date?" And then being like, "No thank you," and then being like, "Society is fucked." Like, you're not the fucking Joker, you're an asshole. Like, maybe if you showered and cut your hair and wasn't such an insufferable prick, then people would like you more.
And then her boyfriend walks up to her and he's like, "Hey, honey, like, I found this, like, giant Kit Kat, the one that you like. I bought it for you." And he's like,
"Fucking Chad!"
This really good girl ran off with a Chad the other day before I had a chance to make her mine.
Fucking Chads! Stealing all the biddies.
Well, first of all, maybe don't call them that.
Yeah, you know,
I'll like you a little bit more.
Lesson
Stop
number
coming up
3.
with nicknames that aren't my name, and then maybe I'll like you.
There's a really funny article. Another non sequitur before we end. There's a funny article that I was reading about because I was talking to a buddy of mine of what's the proper term for little people.
Yeah,
like people who suffer from dwarfism.
Little people.
Like it is little people, but like. We were wondering, like, okay, the condition is dwarfism. Should we call them dwarves? Yeah. But then when you think of dwarves, you think, like, Tolkien, like, fantasy dwarves. Yeah. Or you also can't call them, like, I think this isn't as cool, but you can't call them midgets anymore. Like, I don't think that's a cool thing to say.
No, it's not.
So little people. But I was reading this article that was like, small people are okay with being called small people or little people, but most people would prefer to be referred to by their names. And I was like, that's a good point.
You know what? You right.
Yeah, you know,
right.
If I knew a little person named Dave, I think I'd just call him Dave. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like that's easier.
Every time I think about like,
I think someone took that format and used it for like gender non-conforming individuals.
Yeah.
Like,
what do we call them? Well, how about their names?
Find out what their names are. Do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think about that all the time, especially in conversations about like gender non-conforming folks and people who have specific pronouns. It's like, I don't know. I very rarely refer, like, more when you and I are talking, like, you have feminine pronouns. You use she, her, and I'm he, him, if anyone ever wondered. But, like, how often do I refer to you as she?
Yeah.
I just say your name.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Lesson number 3 is to not be such an asshole and call people by their names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call me by my name.
Yeah. Army Hammer,
Yeah.
call on the podcast. Bring
Ooh.
Timothy with you. So
Yeah.
Sam can kill him.
No. I re-listened to that episode, and it's like I definitely like represented myself well and said like, listen, I don't hate Timothy Chalamet, but I went off a little bit, so I just want to reiterate that I don't hate Timothy Chalamet.
Really.
I don't hate Timothy Chalamet. I don't hate Timothy Chalamet.
I hear you.
Fine,
I'm
he's
hearing the words you're
successful.
saying, and they're entering my ears.
Yeah.
And they're words.
Everybody like, comment, and subscribe when you understand that I don't hate Timothy Chalamet.
I would love for one day for you to make it big, Sam, and work in Hollywood, and like you get in a movie, and like, oh, you're working with Timothy Chalamet, and like you meet, and he's like, oh, nice to meet you. It's so nice, blah blah, and then he just puts his phone on the table and says, press play, and it's just like episode whatever of our podcast of you being like, I'm gonna fucking kill Timothy Chalamet. So I heard this on the internet. I just wanted to make sure that you're not gonna kill me.
Oh, I would die. I would die on spot. I would dust myself.
Yeah. Thanos snap only you. What a way to go.
Yeah.
But
and you know what? It was fair. He said he was gonna be fair, and I was the whole 50% that he was talking about. Just me and my opinions on Timothy Chalamet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like always, folks, you can find us Tuesday at 3 p.m. on YouTube.
Always.
Like always, you can find us wherever you find podcasts. Be sure to give us a like on those services. Share it with your friends. Share it with your mother. Show us to your dog.
Yes.
We are huge.
Especially show me to your dog.
We are huge in the dog
and
community.
Your cat. Or you know what? Shout out to people who own rabbits.
Okay.
Yeah, show me to your rabbit.
Yeah, I guess so. But we'll see you guys next week.
Don't show me to your bird though. Fuck birds.
Fuck birds.
Fuck birds.
See you later, everybody.
Bye.